So my best friend from college, we've known each other for 10 years. She was arrested for emailing her children Happy Valentine's Day. Her ex saw that as a violation of a temporary protective order, and the police came and arrested her for aggravated stalking.
Oh my goodness.
Based on this email. So you and I both know that doesn't count as aggravated stalking, but to the police it did. And she was arrested. She's a single mother, taken from her kids, so custody immediately went to the father, which that was why it was such an issue in the first place. Her stay ended up being 7 months long because she maintained her innocence the whole time. She was offered multiple plea deals. She was offered to take misdemeanor offense because aggravated stalking is a felony charge. And she was offered multiple opportunities, in quotation marks, to say, hey, yes, I was guilty, when indeed she wasn't. So, and she had a private attorney, so I don't know how much different it would have been, probably significantly different if she had a public defender. Ultimately, her case was entirely dismissed. The prosecutor did not have any evidence against her. They didn't even have a copy of the email that was allegedly sent. 7 months later, she completed a training program in the jail, because if you're there for 7 months, you make use of your time. And it was intended to train women to have construction skills to help balance the gender disparity in the construction industry. It was led by Habitat for Humanity and Spencer Fry, and they ran the program. And Amelia was featured in a major Atlanta newspaper with lots of promises of job offers, how things would be different. She would have all these opportunities when she got out. None of those opportunities came to pass, and she ended up living on my couch for another 6 or 7 months after that, just getting her feet back underneath her, getting partial custody. She gets to see her kids every other weekend when it used to be full time that she was with them. And she still has not found gainful employment and still dealing with the trauma. Her teeth have deteriorated significantly. They're crumbling. The water is so intensely chlorinated. I have no way to tell if the water is actually different, as it is she, but other inmates have attested to that same situation. So whether you like bologna or tuna salad the best, those are the sandwiches that you were offered. And she had lots of, I don't know how many hundreds of dollars I spent on jail ATM talking to her. On Mother's Day, I sent her one picture of the kids because that was all I could afford, and I just said, what a joke, right? Happy Mother's Day. But she had a pretty good experience, all said and done, because she only experienced one injury, when she fell from the top of the bunk bed and half of her ear was torn off by the metal. The nurse said, oh, no, you're fine, don't worry about it. And she was like, no, please look at my ear. And it was only until then that they were like, oh, okay, you do actually need medical care. So yeah, and that's middle class white girl with a private attorney. So
thank you for thank you to everyone who shared your story. I really appreciate it. You said something actually that was going to come up on one of my later slides, so I was really excited when you said it. Mocha, do I hit the arrow button to go? Yeah. Okay. So the internal grievance procedures for someone who is incarcerated in the jail, this is specific to the jail, okay, not the prison. It's a different system. If you're in the prison, you have more people you can complain to. You can complain to the Department of Corrections. There's federal oversight. I mean, there's federal oversight of jails too, but not in the same way. But here, it's county jail, so the sheriff is the boss. And that's kind of the height of your grievance. So you can imagine how that might go. But anyway, internal grievance process, it's specific to each jail, prison, or institution. There was a law passed, I don't know the year, that severely curtailed the rights of people to file federal complaints, federal lawsuits about their conditions in jail and prison. It's called the Prison Litigation Reform Act. And so that requires that you have an exhaustion of administrative remedies before you can file a federal lawsuit about the prison or jail conditions you experienced. And I was reading a lawsuit, I think it was from someone who was incarcerated here. They filed it pro se, so they're representing themselves. It was dismissed by the judge, and it was dismissed because they didn't exhaust their administrative remedies. And it mentioned that you have to do the internal grievance procedure of the facility you're in, even if it is guaranteed basically that that procedure and policy will not get you a resolution. Like even if it is fruitless, you have to do it. And so I have printouts of the grievance policy that I received from an open records request of the jail handbook. But I also put it on the next page so you can see like how long it is. And there's also a resource about the Prison Litigation Reform Act. So here's the jail grievance policy. Basically, you kind of have to tier up from, escalated from this person to this person. There's date timelines on it. So, you have to file it with the deputy in your housing area. You can fill out a paper form. You can also fill it out on the kiosk and submit it electronically. I guess there is a grievance mailbox in your housing area. I don't know if that's applicable to people who are in what's called SHU, which is a special housing unit, or people who are in like maximum security. I would doubt that they have a grievance mailbox. So it will be investigated and you will get a response from the classification unit. So you have 15 days to appeal to the jail commander, who is Chief Deputy Frank Woods. If you're not satisfied with his response, then you have 15 days to appeal to the sheriff. If you think your complaint is sensitive, perhaps it's against the deputy in your housing area, and so you don't want to file your complaint about them to them, you can file it directly to the sheriff. You have to file out the complaint yourself. You can get assistance, but it has to be filled out by you. I also love that they say no group grievances will be accepted, so God forbid there's solidarity amongst people who are in a horrible situation together. If it's not filled out properly, it will be unanswered, and duplicate grievances will not be accepted either. So you just have to hope that you're going to get a reply at some point.
Wow.
So that's something that Mocha was talking about. It's very difficult for us to assist someone in the grievance process because it has to be filled out from the jail, either electronically via the kiosk or paper form. So there's no real way for us to help someone with it other than being on the phone with them and walking them through it as they go through it. So external grievances would be done by people on the outside like us. If an internal grievance doesn't resolve the issue, friends, family, community groups can try to agitate on their behalf. It's recommended to write a one-page letter to the jail administrator, which would be Chief Deputy Frank Woods. I included his phone number and email on here, if you want to write that down. And then, yeah, I'm sure he'll love it. And then next, if you're not happy or he doesn't resolve it for you, you escalate to the sheriff. I also included his phone number and email. And then after that, it would be the commission. And then that's kind of it. There's no larger oversight body to address these issues, unlike in a prison. If your grievance is specifically about medical issues, I would recommend calling. I can pretty much guarantee they won't actually let you talk to the medical staff at the jail and say that it's an issue of confidentiality. They love to throw HIPAA around, do anything to try to get you to stop, trying to investigate and figure out what's happening. But healthcare in the jail is provided by a private company called Medico Correctional Healthcare, and I included their phone number. You can also notify the County Board of Health regarding healthcare and conditions in the jail, and there's their phone number. And then the Georgia Division of Public Health can also be contacted about health conditions in the jail. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the local jail context. So my argument is jails are the problem and not the solution. I don't know if you can see the number. Hopefully you can see the number on there. This is a piece of data from Prison Policy Initiative, which is one of my favorite nonprofit resources on incarceration. Georgia incarcerates 881 people per 100,000. You can see that we vastly outpace the United States as an entire country and many other countries as well. Georgia loves to put people in cages. Jails, local jails in particular, are a problem because there is so little oversight. They are run by counties, right? And so there's not state level or federal level guidelines that are outlining how things should be done and overseeing if they are done that way. There are, I believe, 3,116 local jails in the country. So 1 out of every 3 people that is behind bars is held in a county or a city jail. The U.S. jail population has tripled over the last 30 years, mostly because of an increase in pretrial detention and money bail. Our specific jail was renovated, it was completed in 2017. The total cost was a little over, well, almost $66 million from SPLOST funding. And it was designed to house an anticipated inmate population through 2024. So last year they were estimating that in 2024 there would be 750 people on a daily basis incarcerated in our jail. The average jail population for the month of June 2025 was 467. So they have not filled the beds that they were anticipating. So this is just a very simple graph I made of the sheriff's budget. In the last 10 years, the sheriff's budget has gone from $16 million in 2016, when their average jail population was 399. That was prior to the jail expansion, to $24 million in fiscal year 2026, with an average jail population of 465. The majority of people incarcerated in our jail are in pretrial detention. So that means that they are waiting to have their day in court. They have not been found guilty, they have not been convicted, and legally they are presumed innocent. As you mentioned, even a day or 2 in pretrial detention in a jail can destabilize someone's life for the rest of their life.
Yes.
A 2022 study in Kentucky found that each day a person spent in pretrial detention was strongly associated with an escalating risk of a new arrest when they got out. So, the argument for pretrial detention is that it would reduce recidivism, it would keep the community safer, and, basically punish someone. When really the only point of pretrial detention is to ensure that someone is going to come back to the court date. It doesn't do that, number one, because most people who miss court, it's not intentionally, it's due to other issues. And also, someone's risk of getting a new arrest is increased with every day that they spend in pretrial detention. Hopefully, I don't know if you can see that graph very well, but it is about the economic impacts on people in pretrial detention. Again, it's from Prison Policy Initiative. I highly recommend checking out their website. They do amazing stuff. This is just graphing missed work and lost jobs. So you can see on the furthest category, it's just 4 to 7 days. That's not that many days, right? 62% of people missed work if they were in pretrial detention for 4 to 7 days. And 30% of people in pretrial detention for 4 to 7 days lost their jobs.
Jesus.
So compared to, I wanted to spend more time on the budget, I didn't have time, but basically I wanted to bring up supportive housing, okay? That's the program in the county that is to assist people who don't have access to a home with getting a home. In fiscal year 26, the budget for that was less than $500,000. But the sheriff got $24 million to house people in cages instead of in homes where they should be in their community with their loved ones, contributing, living a good life, and being free. I believe the prioritization of the expansion of the jail, that however $66 million on the jail expansion and this ever escalating sheriff budget is causing lifelong harm to people in Athens. Places that have implemented strategies to reduce the reliance on pretrial detention and cash bail have not seen an increase in crime. So that is not an excuse. The court and jail system's reliance on pretrial detention is costly, inefficient, illogical, and deadly. I have done a research project on deaths in the jail. My data goes back to 2001. That's how far I could find in the Athens-Clarke archives and other media archives. And I also asked the jail to share their data with me after I had mine, because I wanted to make sure I wasn't missing anyone. You can file an open records request with public agencies like the Sheriff's Office. When I did that, they quoted me, they're allowed to charge a reasonable rate for the research that they did, right? They're a reasonable amount. They also have to respond to you in 3 days, and they did not, so violating the Open Records Act right there. But the rate that they quoted me for the data I requested was over $5,000. That was me asking them, do you have a list of the people
Are you serious?
who have died in the jail? And they said, that'll be $5,000, ma'am. I had a phone call. I said, I want to make sure we're on the same page here. I don't really understand how this could be possible. And they doubled down and said that I was being unreasonable in what I was asking for, and that they were going to have to start scanning and redacting information from the records they were pulling. And I said, hold on. I just asked for a list. Under the Open Records Act, if you don't have it already, the data already, you don't have to create it for me. So do you or do you not have a list of who has died in your custody? And they told me they couldn't answer that question, and that they were going to start scanning and redacting because they knew I was going to ask for that information after I got the list. And they were preemptively wanting to charge me for something I did not ask for. Anyway, a couple of weeks went by. They revised the amount to $100, which AADM graciously paid. And we got the list. There were 6 people on the list that they gave me that I had never encountered before, whose deaths were not reported in local news. But also, there were 3 people that I knew about whose deaths were reported, who were not on the list that the jail provided me. And so now I am even more concerned that there have been more people who have died in the jail whose deaths have not been reported. So if anyone is aware of anyone who has died in custody, please reach out to me, give me the name, the year, and I will compare it to my list and see if that is a death that I have recorded or not. But since 2001, there have been at least 24 in custody deaths in the Athens-Clarke County Jail. The average age of someone at the time of death in the Athens-Clarke County Jail is 39 years old. 15 of those people were Black, 6 were white, 1 was Latino, and 2 people I have not been able to find any information about them because they have common names. And the sheriff's office list was just names. They did not give me dates of death, so I'm having to comb through a lot of records. 2 of those people were female and 22 were male. The majority, as I'm sure you can all imagine, were Black males who have died in the jail. 2025 has been the deadliest year in the jail, with 4 deaths just through the end of July, out of all the years for which I have data. The second deadliest year was in 2013 when 3 people died. And there are 2 people, I don't know what year they died, so if they get added to 2013, then that will tie 2025 as the deadliest year. I don't have a slide on it, but I wanted to just mention very briefly, if you attended the sheriff's press conference or read about it, watched part of it, they blamed the most recent deaths on fentanyl. And Boise's father was talking about that, right? They don't have an autopsy back yet. They don't know how Boise died or why Boise died. I will tell you from the data that I have, I think out of the 24, I only have a known death for maybe half of them. The other ones, there's been no reporting on the cause of death after the initial reporting that someone died. So I have multiple pending open records requests with the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, who, despite the open records request requiring that you respond within 3 days about the day you're going to get your data, they just have a blanket. It'll be 4 to 6 weeks, ma'am. So I will update everyone when I find out. But for right now, the most common cause of death, I would say, is natural causes. And that includes someone who was 22 years old and died of natural causes in the jail. So there are a lot of alternatives to pretrial detention. Again, I'm quoting Prison Policy Initiative. There is a lot of text on this slide. I'm not going to read all of it. I don't expect you to read all of it either, but I wanted to put this much text here because I wanted to make it clear that there are a lot of opportunities where we can do something and make change, and the system seems all-powerful, it seems impenetrable, it seems impossible to fight back against this and to do something and to actually create change. There are so many places where we can do something and make people's lives better, make Athens better, and get people out of cages. We can have diversion programs. Our diversion programs, Mocha maybe will have a workshop about that. Our diversion program is defunct because of a state jail, or a state law that was passed regarding immigration that made it impossible for our diversion program to work the way it had worked before. We could end cash bail. We could have public defenders at people's first court appearances instead of having people be not represented the first time they go before a judge. We could have community-based supports. We could have $26 million from the sheriff's office and instead house people, give people jobs with better wages. There's a million different things we could do with $26 million. I'm sure that you all have a lot of ideas about what we could do. The $26 million that isn't putting people in dirty cages and feeding them 2 meals a day on the weekend. We could encourage the judges and prosecutors to be less punitive, to have them not give people a $10 bond, which actually equals a $33 bond after the $20 sheriff's fee and whatever other associated charges.
And jail ATM fee, so.
Right, jail ATM
You have to
fees.
pay for that too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The kiosk machine.
We could reduce police contact so that people aren't arrested in the first place and we don't have to, you know, go through this entire process. There's a lot of things that we can do.
All right, how can we help? So Athens Anti-Discrimination Movement has been doing this work for the past 10 years, okay? If someone needs to file a complaint, they can do so by filing it online. They choose the category that best fits their situation, whether it's public accommodation, law enforcement. Specify how we can help. That sometimes people say they just want to share their story. They need help with finding legal resources like attorney, or they need help with the grievance process, you know, that type of thing.